The accidental signal, the distress beacon pulsed through the cosmic void, carrying the desperate plea of the Velkari people across countless light years. On their oceanic homeworld of Thalassia Prime, Administrator Korin watched through the transparent dome as enemy vessels descended through the atmosphere like predatory shadows. His people had been peaceful traders for 8 centuries, their cities floating gracefully on vast planetary seas. They had never prepared for war because war had seemed impossible in their corner of the galaxy. The Kryn Dominion had proven them tragically wrong. Korin's communication officer, a young Velkari named Sela, worked frantically at her console. Her bioluminescent patterns flickered with distress as she monitored the failing planetary shields. Administrator, the distress signal has been transmitted to the Galactic Peacekeeping Assembly. She paused, her webbed fingers trembling. But there's something wrong with the transmission relay. What kind of wrong? Korin asked, though he suspected the answer would bring no comfort. The signal bounced off the Kryn's jamming field. It was redirected to an unknown sector. The coordinates don't match any registered assembly station. Korin felt his hope sink like stone in deep water. Their one chance for rescue had been lost to a technical malfunction. Above them, Kryn warships continued their systematic bombardment of the outer city shields. The invaders wanted Thalassia Prime's vast water resources and strategic location. The Velkari people were merely obstacles to be removed. Across the galaxy, in a solar system the Velkari had never heard of, Commander Sarah Chen sat in Earth's deep space monitoring station, orbiting beyond Neptune. The station had been humanity's ear to the cosmos for 15 years, listening for any sign of intelligent alien life. What they received instead was mostly stellar noise and the occasional pulsar. Until now. "Commander, you need to see this," called out Lieutenant David Torres from his workstation. His voice carried an urgency that made Sarah abandon her coffee and cross the room immediately. The display showed wavelength patterns that definitely weren't natural phenomena. Someone was broadcasting a signal using mathematical sequences as a foundation, exactly the kind of universal language theorists had predicted aliens might use. Sarah's pulse quickened as she watched the data stream. "Can you translate it?" she asked. Torres was already working on it, his fingers flying across multiple keyboards. "We've been developing translation protocols for years. If this is what I think it is, we're about to make history." 2 hours later, Sarah stood in a video conference with Earth's Unified Space Command. On her screen were General Marcus Thompson, Dr. Elena Vasquez from the Linguistics Institute, and representatives from a dozen nations. The translated message played for the assembled leaders. Emergency transmission from Thalassia Prime Administrative Center. "We are the Velkari people under attack by the Kryn Dominion. Our world is dying. 3 billion souls require immediate evacuation assistance. This message is directed to the Galactic Peacekeeping Assembly. Please respond. Time remaining before shield failure. 62 hours. The silence that followed was profound. General Thompson was the first to speak. "Commander Chen, how confident are we in this translation?" Dr. Vasquez answered. 97% confidence, General. The mathematical foundations are universal. The message includes star charts, tactical data, and biological information about their species. This is absolutely genuine. Sarah pulled up the star charts the Velkari had included. Thalassia Prime is 43 light-years from Earth. According to their data, they meant to contact something called the Galactic Peacekeeping Assembly, but their signal was misdirected to our sector, so we're not who they were trying to reach, observed Ambassador Liu from the Chinese delegation. This raises the question, do we respond? The debate that followed was intense. Some argued that humanity should observe and learn without interfering. Others insisted that 3 billion lives trumped any concerns about first contact protocols. But Sarah noticed that General Thompson remained quiet, his expression thoughtful. Finally, the general spoke. "Ladies and gentlemen, we've spent centuries wondering if we're alone in the universe. Now we know we're not. We also know that somewhere out there, people are dying while waiting for help that isn't coming." He paused, letting his words sink in. "What does it say about humanity if our first response to alien life is to do nothing? But we don't have ships capable of faster-than-light travel," protested the Russian representative. "The experimental drives have never been tested beyond the solar system." "Then it's time to test them," Thompson replied. "I'm authorizing the deployment of Project Horizon." Project Horizon had been Earth's secret preparation for the possibility of hostile alien contact. 6 experimental vessels equipped with prototype FTL drives, designed for long-range reconnaissance and, if necessary, combat. They had never been meant for a rescue mission across interstellar space, but they were all humanity had. Captain Marcus Reed received his orders 6 hours later. A career military officer who had commanded ships in every ocean on Earth before volunteering for space service, Marcus was known for his unconventional thinking and absolute calm under pressure. He read the mission briefing twice, then called his senior officers to the briefing room aboard the ECS Valiant. The 6 ships of Task Force Horizon assembled in orbit above Earth. Alongside the Valiant were the Defiant, the Resolute, the Indomitable, the Relentless, and the Dauntless. Each carried a crew of 80, along with medical personnel, engineers, and a contingent of Marines trained for zero-gravity combat. They were about to attempt something no human had ever done: travel to another star system and intervene in an alien war. Dr. James Park, the fleet's chief medical officer, studied the biological data the Velkari had included in their distress call. The aliens were aquatic, with respiratory systems adapted for extracting oxygen from water. Their biochemistry was silicon-based rather than carbon-based, which meant human medical knowledge might not apply. He would have to improvise treatments for a species humanity had never met. Captain Reed stood on the Valiant's bridge, looking at the star field displayed on the main screen. His executive officer, Commander Lisa Martinez, stood beside him. "You ready for this?" she asked quietly. "To be humanity's first contact with alien civilization? To fight a war against enemies we know nothing about? To possibly die 43 light-years from home?" Marcus smiled slightly. "Absolutely not. But someone has to answer that distress call." The order came from Earth. Task Force Horizon was cleared for departure. The 6 ships activated their FTL drives simultaneously, and space folded around them in ways that Einstein would have found deeply troubling. They vanished from Earth's solar system, beginning a journey that would take them 3 days to complete. During the transit, Marcus studied everything the Velkari had sent about the Kryn Dominion. The enemy was a military hierarchy that had conquered 17 star systems over the past century. They were bipedal, technologically advanced, and believed in the absolute right of the strong to dominate the weak. Their tactics favored overwhelming force and psychological terror. "We're outgunned and outnumbered," observed Commander Martinez, reviewing the tactical data. "The Kryn have 200 vessels in the Thalassia system. We have 6, Marcus nodded, which means we can't fight them conventionally. We'll need to be faster, smarter, and more unpredictable than they are. Good thing humans wrote the book on asymmetric warfare." As Task Force Horizon raced through folded space toward a world they'd never seen, to save people they'd never met, Marcus wondered what kind of galaxy humanity was about to enter. The Velkari seemed peaceful. The Kryn seemed brutal. But there was clearly an entire civilization out there, with its own politics, alliances, and conflicts. Earth was about to announce itself to that civilization in the loudest way possible, by answering a distress call with military force. On Thalassia Prime, Administrator Corrin watched helplessly as another city shield collapsed under Kryn bombardment. His people were dying by the thousands. The mysterious signal redirection seemed like a cruel joke from an uncaring universe. Whoever had received their distress call was too far away or too indifferent to help. He was wrong on both counts. 3 days after the signal reached Earth, alarms began sounding on Kryn command vessels throughout the Thalassia system. 6 unknown ships had just emerged from faster-than-light travel at the system's edge. The vessels were small compared to Kryn warships, but their energy signatures were unusual, and their approach vector was aggressive. Commander Vrek of the Kryn Dominion studied the newcomers with contempt. The Velkari had apparently found some foolish species willing to die with them. He ordered 3 of his destroyers to intercept and eliminate the unknown vessels. It would be a brief demonstration of Kryn superiority before returning to the conquest. Aboard the Valiant, Marcus watched the Kryn ships approaching. His crew was at battle stations. The Marines were ready. Dr. Park had prepared the medical bay for casualties. Everyone knew the odds they faced, and everyone had volunteered anyway. "This is Captain Reed to all ships. Our mission is to protect Velkari civilians and evacuate them if possible. The Kryn Dominion has chosen to prey on peaceful people. Let's show them what happens when they pick on someone who can fight back." The first battle between humans and aliens was about to begin, and the galaxy was about to learn that Earth was not like other worlds. First contact through fire. The 3 Kryn destroyers approached Task Force Horizon with the confidence of predators who had never met effective resistance. Each vessel was twice the size of the Valiant and bristled with energy weapons that had reduced planetary defenses to slag. Commander Vrek watched from his flagship with casual interest, expecting the unknown aliens to either flee or die within minutes. He was about to receive an education in human warfare. Captain Marcus. Reed studied his tactical display with the calm precision of someone who had spent 30 years preparing for moments like this. The Kryn ships were moving in a standard interception formation, textbook military doctrine designed to create overlapping fields of fire. It was exactly what he had hoped they would do. All ships implement attack pattern Delta 7. Marcus's voice was steady over the fleet channel. Remember, they're expecting us to fight like everyone else they've conquered. Let's disappoint them. The 6 human vessels suddenly broke formation, scattering in directions that seemed random but were actually precisely calculated. The Kryn destroyers tried to adjust their formation to maintain coverage, but the human ships were faster and more maneuverable than anything in the Dominion's experience. Lieutenant Sarah Kim at the weapons station watched her targeting displays lock onto the lead Kryn destroyer. "Captain, we have firing solutions." "Wait for it," Marcus said calmly, watching the enemy ships spread themselves thin trying to cover all 6 human vessels. "Wait for it. Now, all ships fire everything." What happened next violated every principle of civilized galactic warfare. The human vessels unleashed their weapons simultaneously from 6 different angles, targeting not the Kryn ships' heavily armored prows but their engine sections, communication arrays and weapon hardpoints. Kinetic railguns fired projectiles that punched through shields designed to deflect energy weapons. Missiles with electronic warfare packages jammed Kryn targeting systems. Laser arrays focused on sensor clusters with surgical precision. The lead Kryn destroyer lost half its weapons and all external communications in the first 3 seconds of combat. Commander Vrek stared at his tactical display in shock. The unknown aliens fought with a viciousness and precision that seemed impossible for a species the Dominion had never encountered. Their weapons were primitive by galactic standards, using actual projectiles and chemical explosives, but they struck with devastating accuracy at weak points in Kryn ship design that most species never thought to target. All vessels, evasive maneuvers, Vrek ordered, but the human ships had already adapted to his response. Marcus watched as the Kryn destroyers attempted to withdraw and regroup. Standard tactical doctrine. He smiled slightly. "Commander Martinez, take the Defiant and Resolute on a flanking run. I want those ships thinking about survival instead of conquest." The 2 human vessels accelerated past the Kryn formation, firing continuously as they passed. The Kryn shields, designed to withstand directed energy weapons, struggled against the kinetic impact of railgun rounds traveling at relativistic speeds. One destroyer's shields collapsed entirely, and a precisely aimed missile destroyed its main power coupling. On Thalasia Prime, Administrator Corrin watched the orbital battle through his monitoring systems with growing amazement. The 6 unknown vessels were not just fighting the Kryn, they were dominating them. Whoever these aliens were, they fought with a ferocity and creativity that seemed almost incomprehensible. "Sela, get me a communication channel to those ships," he ordered. "Administrator, I don't know their language or communication protocols. Try everything. Mathematical sequences, visual patterns, anything. I need to know who they are." Aboard the Valiant, Lieutenant Torres picked up the Velkari transmission attempt. "Captain, we're receiving multiple communication signals from the planet. They're trying to reach us. Open a channel," Marcus ordered. "Let's introduce ourselves." Dr. Elena Vasquez, who had been assigned to the Valiant specifically for first contact scenarios, worked quickly to establish communication. The translation protocols she and her team had developed finally had their first real test. After several minutes, she established a basic connection. "Attention Velkari people," she transmitted, reading from a prepared script. "This is the Earth Space Command vessel Valiant. We received your distress call. We're here to help." On Thalasia Prime, Corrin listened to the translated message with a mixture of relief and confusion. Earth? He had never heard of such a world. The galactic databases contained no record of any species calling themselves humans. Yet here they were, fighting the Kryn Dominion to protect people they had never met. Earth vessel. This is Administrator Corin of Thalassia Prime. We are grateful for your assistance, but you must understand the danger you face. The Kryn Dominion controls this entire sector. You cannot defeat them with 6 ships. Marcus listened to the translation, then smiled grimly. Administrator, we're not here to defeat the Kryn Dominion. We're here to rescue your people. There's a difference. The battle continued to rage in orbit. The 3 Kryn destroyers had been joined by 6 more vessels, and Commander Rek was beginning to coordinate a more effective response. But the human ships refused to engage in the kind of pitched battle the Kryn expected. Instead, they struck from unexpected angles, disappeared behind planetary satellites, and used every piece of orbital debris as cover. Commander Martinez guided the Defiant through a particularly daring maneuver, using Thalassia Prime's gravity well to slingshot around the planet and emerged directly behind a Kryn cruiser. The enemy vessel never saw the attack coming. Railgun rounds tore through its engine section, leaving it drifting helplessly. "Captain Reed, we have a problem," called out Lieutenant Kim. "Long-range sensors show the main Kryn fleet breaking orbit." "They're moving to engage us. How many ships?" Marcus asked. 194, sir." The bridge fell silent. 6 human vessels against nearly 200 enemy warships. The odds were mathematically impossible. But Marcus had already anticipated this moment. "All ships, begin immediate evacuation operations. We need to get as many Velkari off that planet as possible before the main fleet arrives." Dr. James Park prepared his medical teams for what would be humanity's first interaction with alien civilians. The Valiant's shuttle bays were being converted into emergency refugee centers. Other ships in the task force were doing the same, stripping out unnecessary equipment to make room for evacuees. The first shuttle touched down in Thalassia Prime's capital city 12 minutes later. The pilot, Lieutenant Commander Rachel Torres, emerged to find hundreds of Velkari families waiting desperately. The aliens were beautiful in a way she hadn't expected. Their bodies adapted for aquatic life with streamlined forms and bioluminescent patterns that pulsed with emotion. "We can take 300 per trip," Rachel announced through her translator. "Families with children first." Administrator Corin approached the shuttle, his aged features showing both gratitude and sorrow. "How many trips can you make before the Kryn fleet arrives?" Rachel checked her tactical display. "Maybe 20 if we're lucky. That's 6,000 people out of 3 billion. The numbers were crushing, but Corin had already accepted that most of his people would not survive. At least these humans were trying. That was more than the Galactic Peacekeeping Assembly had done. Dr. Park worked quickly to assess Velkari physiology as the first refugees boarded the shuttle. Their silicon-based biochemistry was indeed different from anything in Earth's medical databases, but the basic principles of trauma care seemed to apply. He treated a young Velkari child injured in the bombardment, discovering that their bodies responded well to standard antibiotics despite their alien biology. "Doctor, we have more injured coming in," called one of his medics. "Particle beam wounds." Park moved to help, his mind already adapting human medical techniques to alien patients. This was why humanity had brought doctors on a military mission. They had known that helping people would be just as important as fighting battles. In orbit above the planet, the tactical situation was deteriorating rapidly. The Kryn main fleet was approaching, and Marcus knew his 6 ships couldn't hold them off indefinitely. He needed to buy time for the evacuation, which meant he needed to be unpredictable. "All ships implement Protocol Chaos," he ordered. Protocol Chaos was something human military theorists had developed during Earth's countless wars. When outnumbered and outgunned, abandon all conventional tactics and make the enemy respond to constant, unpredictable threats. It was exhausting, dangerous, and violated every principle of organized warfare. It was also incredibly effective against enemies who relied on standard doctrine. The 6 human vessels began what could only be described as controlled pandemonium. They fired from impossible angles, performed maneuvers that pushed their inertial dampeners to the limit, and coordinated attacks that seemed random but were actually precisely timed. The Kryn fleet, trained in conventional military operations, struggled to respond to enemies who refused to fight conventionally. Commander Vrek found himself constantly reacting rather than executing his battle plan. These humans were like nothing the Dominion had encountered. They seemed to thrive in chaos, turning every disadvantage into an unexpected opportunity. One human vessel, the Indomitable, lost its main shields and most of its weapons in a devastating barrage. By all galactic military standards, the ship should have withdrawn to safety. Instead, its captain deliberately rammed a Kryn cruiser at high speed, destroying both vessels but creating a massive debris field that disrupted Kryn formation for crucial minutes. The sacrifice bought time for 2 more evacuation runs. Marcus watched the Indomitable's destruction with grief but no regret. Captain Sarah Chen had made her choice. She had saved 600 Velkari lives with that decision, and she had done it knowing exactly what it would cost. This is Captain Reed to all remaining ships. Chen's sacrifice bought us time. Make it count. On the planet's surface, the evacuation continued with desperate efficiency. Human shuttles made trip after trip, each one carrying Velkari families to safety while Kryn weapons destroyed cities around them. Dr. Park and his medical teams worked without pause, treating injuries and learning alien medicine through necessity. Administrator Corrin watched the humans work with growing admiration. These aliens had traveled across the galaxy to help strangers. They had sacrificed one of their ships to protect people they had never met. They asked for nothing in return except the chance to save lives. "Who are these humans?" he asked Sela quietly. "I don't know, Administrator, but I think the galaxy is about to find out." Above them, the battle raged on, 5 human ships against nearly 200 Kryn vessels. The odds were impossible. The outcome seemed certain, but humanity had built its entire civilization on defying impossible odds. And they were just getting started. A new galactic reality, the battle for Thalassia Prime, entered its 18th hour with the dawn of the planet's binary suns. Captain Marcus Reed stood on the Valiant's bridge, exhausted but focused. His task force had been reduced to 5 ships, and all of them showed significant damage. Yet they had managed to evacuate 43,000 Velkari civilians and destroy or disable 37 Kryn vessels. It wasn't enough. Not nearly enough. "Captain, we're detecting multiple FTL signatures incoming," reported Lieutenant Torres. His voice carried a note of concern. "Profile matches Kryn reinforcements." Marcus felt his hopes sink. If more enemy ships arrived, the evacuation would end and his task force would be destroyed. But then Torres continued, confusion evident in his tone. "Sir, the new arrivals aren't Kryn. They're broadcasting Galactic Peacekeeping Assembly identification codes." A dozen sleek vessels emerged from faster-than-light travel at the system's edge. They were larger and more advanced than either human or Kryn ships, their hulls marked with symbols that spoke of authority and power. The lead vessel immediately broadcast on all frequencies. "This is Ambassador Theron of the Galactic Peacekeeping Assembly. All hostile forces are ordered to cease combat operations immediately. This system is now under Assembly protection." Commander Vrek aboard his flagship stared at the newcomers with a mixture of relief and frustration. The Assembly's arrival meant the conquest of Thalassia Prime was over. The Kryn Dominion would have to withdraw or face sanctions from the galaxy's most powerful alliance. But it also meant these mysterious humans had succeeded in their rescue mission. The Kryn fleet began withdrawing to the system's edge, their weapons powering down in compliance with Assembly orders. The battle was over. Humanity had won, though at a terrible cost. Ambassador Theron's vessel approached the battered human task force. The alien diplomat appeared on the Valiant's main screen, his features showing a mixture of curiosity and something that might have been respect. He was tall and angular, with silver skin and eyes that seemed to contain entire galaxies. "Unknown vessels, I am Ambassador Theron. We received a delayed distress signal from this system and came as quickly as possible." He paused, studying Marcus with obvious interest. "You are not Velkari. Who are you, and why are you fighting the Kryn Dominion?" Marcus straightened despite his exhaustion. "I am Captain Marcus Reed of the Earth Space Command. We received the Velkari distress call by accident and came to provide assistance." "By accident?" Theron's expression shifted to something unreadable. "Captain Reed, do you understand what you have accomplished? You defeated a Kryn battle group with only 6 vessels. You evacuated thousands of civilians under fire. You sacrificed one of your ships to protect people you had never met. This is unprecedented behavior for a species unknown to galactic civilization. With respect, Ambassador, Helping people in danger isn't unprecedented. It's basic decency. The concept seemed to puzzle Theron. He consulted with others on his bridge before responding. Captain Reed, the Galactic Peacekeeping Assembly would like to establish formal relations with your species. We should discuss Earth's entry into galactic civilization and the protections we can offer your world. Marcus had been expecting this conversation, and he had his instructions from Earth's leadership. Ambassador, Earth appreciates your offer, but we decline membership in galactic civilization at this time. The response sent shockwaves through every alien vessel monitoring the communication. No species in recorded history had ever refused assembly membership. The benefits and protections offered were considered essential for survival in a dangerous galaxy. Captain, perhaps you do not understand the situation, Theron said carefully. The galaxy contains thousands of species and countless threats. Without assembly protection, Earth would be vulnerable to any number of hostile powers. Ambassador, Earth has been protecting itself long before we knew the galaxy existed. Marcus's tone was respectful but firm. We will maintain our independence, but we want every species to understand something important. If we receive distress calls, we will respond. If we see innocent people threatened, we will intervene. Earth will not join your political structures, but we will help anyone who needs it. The declaration was transmitted across the system, picked up by dozens of monitoring stations and relay satellites. Within hours, it would spread throughout galactic civilization. An unknown species from an uncharted world had announced themselves by fighting the Kryn Dominion, saving 43,000 lives and refusing to join established galactic order. On Thalasia Prime, Administrator Corrin watched the exchange with wonder. The humans were even more remarkable than he had realized. They had risked everything to help strangers, and now they were refusing the protections and benefits that most species would desperately seek. Dr. Park continued working with Velkari medical personnel, sharing human techniques and learning alien medicine. The cultural exchange was happening in the midst of crisis, but it was laying the foundation for something important. Two species who had never heard of each other were forming bonds based on shared suffering and mutual respect. Ambassador Theron's next question carried obvious concern. Captain Reed, some in the Assembly will view Earth's position as threatening. You claim no territorial ambitions, yet you possess military capabilities that rival established powers. You offer protection, but refuse to work within established diplomatic frameworks. This will cause instability. Marcus had anticipated this argument as well. Ambassador, Earth didn't cause this instability. We simply answered a distress call. If the galaxy's established frameworks had worked properly, you would have arrived before we did and the Velkari wouldn't have needed our help. The criticism was subtle but clear. The Galactic Peacekeeping Assembly had failed to protect people who needed protection. Humanity had succeeded where they had failed. That reality was uncomfortable for everyone who had built their power on being the galaxy's protectors. Commander Martinez quietly approached Marcus. Captain, we're receiving communication requests from 17 different alien species. Some are offering alliances, others are requesting meetings. A few are making what sound like threats. Tell them all the same thing, Marcus replied. Earth is interested in friendship and cooperation, but we're not interested in politics. If they need help, we'll listen. If they want to trade or share knowledge, we're open to that. But we're not choosing sides in galactic power struggles. The response would frustrate many alien civilizations, but it was consistent with what Marcus had been authorized to communicate. Earth's position was unique, powerful enough to be relevant, principled enough to be trusted, and independent enough to be unpredictable. Dr. Park finally took a break from the medical bay and found Marcus on the observation deck. The captain was staring at Thalasia Prime, watching human shuttles continue their evacuation runs even though the immediate danger had passed. We saved 43,000 people, James said quietly. That's a miracle, Marcus. But it's not enough. It's never enough, Marcus agreed. 3 billion Velkari live on that planet. We barely scratched the surface. But those 43,000 people are alive because we came. That has to mean something. Dr. Park shared some of what he had learned about the Velkari. They're remarkable people, James said. Their civilization is 8 centuries old, built entirely around cooperation and peaceful trade. They've never fought a war because they never imagined they would need to. And when they called for help, the galaxy's peacekeepers didn't come in time. But we did, Marcus said. And we'll come again if anyone else needs help. Over the next several hours, more details about Earth began circulating through galactic databases. The Galactic Peacekeeping Assembly had been investigating humanity's home system, and what they discovered was shocking to most alien civilizations. Ambassador Theron delivered the report personally to the Assembly's High Council. Earth is classified as a Class 9 Deathworld, he announced. The planet has extreme weather variations, dangerous predator species, frequent natural disasters, and environmental toxins that would kill most galactic species within hours. The humans evolved in one of the most hostile environments ever recorded. The council members absorbed this information with varying degrees of alarm. A Deathworld species with advanced technology and military capabilities was unprecedented. Most species from harsh environments never developed civilization because they were too busy surviving. Humans had somehow done both. This explains their combat effectiveness, observed Counselor Vecna, a crystalline being from a peaceful garden world. They evolved in constant conflict with their own environment. Fighting the Kryn Dominion must have seemed relatively simple by comparison. It also explains their protective instincts, added Counselor Maris. Species from Deathworlds develop strong cooperative behaviors because survival requires it. The humans helped the Velkari because abandoning people in danger violates their most fundamental evolutionary programming. Back on Thalassia Prime, the final evacuation ships were preparing to depart. Administrator Corrin had made the painful decision to stay with his people, rather than accept the safety humans offered. But he wanted to thank the aliens who had saved so many lives. Captain Reed, the Velkari people will never forget what Earth has done for us, Corrin said through the translation system. You came across the galaxy to help strangers. You sacrificed your people to protect ours. We are forever in your debt. Marcus shook his head gently. Administrator, there is no debt. We came because it was the right thing to do. That's all humanity ever wants to be remembered for. We tried to do what was right. The human task force prepared to depart Thalassia Prime. Their ships were damaged. Their supplies were depleted, and they had lost one vessel and its entire crew. But they had also accomplished their mission. 43,000 Velkari civilians were alive, because humanity had answered a distress call meant for someone else. As the 5 remaining vessels engaged their FTL drives for the journey home, Marcus sent one final message to the Galactic Peacekeeping Assembly. This is Captain Marcus Reed to all alien civilizations monitoring this transmission. Earth has entered the galaxy not as conquerors or politicians, but as people who believe innocent lives matter. We will maintain our independence, but we will answer distress calls from anyone who needs help. If you are threatened, if you are suffering, if you need someone to stand with you against darkness, send your signal toward Earth. We will hear you, and we will come. The message was recorded, distributed, and analyzed by every major power in the galaxy. Some species saw it as a threat to established order. Others saw it as a promise of protection. A few saw it as the beginning of something new in galactic civilization. On Earth, the returning task force was welcomed as heroes. But the real work was just beginning. The galaxy now knew about humanity, and humanity was learning about the galaxy. Communications from dozens of alien species flooded Earth's diplomatic channels. Some wanted alliances, others wanted trade agreements, and more than a few wanted to understand how a Deathworld species had become powerful enough to challenge established powers. Commander Sarah, Chen of the Indomitable, was remembered as humanity's first casualty in galactic warfare. Her sacrifice had saved 600 Velkari lives and bought crucial time for the evacuation. Monuments were built in her honor on Earth and on Thalassia Prime, linking 2 worlds that had never heard of each other until a distress signal went to the wrong species. President Elena Martinez addressed Earth's population in a historic broadcast. Humanity is no longer alone in the universe. We have met other species and we have shown them who we are. We are not conquerors seeking empire. We are not merchants seeking profit. We are people who believe that innocent lives matter, and we are willing to fight to protect them. This is our message to the galaxy. Earth stands ready to help anyone who calls for aid. The speech was translated into every known galactic language and distributed throughout civilized space. The response was overwhelming. Within days, Earth received distress calls from 3 different systems facing various crises. Some were legitimate emergencies, others were attempts to test human resolve, and a few were obvious traps set by species who wanted to eliminate this unpredictable new power. Captain Marcus Reed was promoted to Admiral, and given command of Earth's expanding deep space fleet. His first priority was building more ships and training more crews. If humanity was going to keep its promise to answer distress calls, they needed the capability to respond to multiple crises simultaneously. Dr. James Park established Earth's first xenobiology research institute, dedicated to understanding alien physiology, so humanity could provide better medical assistance. His work with the Velkari had proven that human medicine could adapt to alien biology, but they needed to do it systematically rather than improvising during crises. Ambassador Corrin visited Earth 6 months after the battle for Thalassia Prime. He was the first alien to walk on humanity's homeworld, and what he found amazed him. Earth was everything the reports had claimed, a beautiful but dangerous world that had forged its inhabitants into something unique. The humans showed him their cities, their cultures, and their determination to make the galaxy a better place. "Your people are remarkable," Corrin told President Martinez during a formal dinner. "Most species who evolve on harsh worlds become either aggressive conquerors or isolated survivors. Humans have somehow maintained both strength and compassion." President Martinez smiled. "Maybe that's because Earth taught us that survival requires cooperation. We learned long ago that we're stronger together than apart. Now we're applying that lesson on a galactic scale." The Velkari and humans established formal diplomatic relations, becoming the first official alliance between Earth and an alien civilization. The partnership was built on mutual respect and shared values rather than political expediency. Other species watched carefully, trying to understand how a Deathworld species could form genuine friendships with more peaceful civilizations. The Kryn Dominion, humiliated by their defeated human hands, withdrew to their core territories and began reassessing their military doctrine. For the first time in their history, they had encountered enemies who fought with greater ferocity than they did. The psychological impact was profound. The Galactic Peacekeeping Assembly continued trying to convince Earth to join their alliance. Ambassador Theron visited Earth multiple times, each time marveling at the planet's hostile environment and the species that had mastered it. He came to respect humanity's decision to remain independent, even as he worried about the precedent it set. 1 year after the battle for Thalassia Prime, Admiral Reed stood in Earth's orbital command center, watching new ships being constructed in orbital yards. The fleet had grown from 6 experimental vessels to 50 operational warships with more under construction. Humanity was building the capability to keep its promise to the galaxy. A new distress signal appeared on his screen. Unknown species, unknown threat, but the same desperate plea for help that had started everything. Marcus read the message, then smiled. "This is Admiral Reed to all ships. We have a situation. Unknown civilization under attack requesting immediate assistance. Task Force 7, you have deployment authorization. Let's go show them what humans do when someone needs help." The ships launched toward another distant star system, carrying humanity's promise to another group of strangers. Earth had entered the galaxy by answering a distress call sent to the wrong species. Now they were building a reputation as the species that always answered, regardless of the danger or the odds. The galaxy was learning that Deathworlders didn't just survive, they thrived. And when they decided to help someone, nothing in the universe would stop them. Humanity had found its place among the stars, not through conquest or commerce, but through courage and compassion. The SOS had been sent to the wrong species, but looking back, maybe it had been sent to exactly the right one. Because when Earth heard someone calling for help, humanity answered with fire and fury and an unshakable determination to protect innocent lives. And they would keep answering, for as long as anyone in the galaxy needed help. The Deathworlders had awakened and the universe would never be the same.